In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this draped Victorian corset with front busk. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, here is my pattern paper and I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and blouse length. So I added 5 inches from my waist to get my blouse length. Now, the next step I'll take is to mark my shoulder divided by 2, and I will come down by 1 inch. From this part, I'll go ahead to mark a basic neckline of 3 inches by 3 inches. Now, I'm using this as a guide to mark out my pattern. Now, I'll go ahead to place and draw out my neckline. So after this, I'll go ahead to connect my shoulder to the neckline of my pattern. Now I'm going to find my chest line after marking this, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Mine is 7 and I will make a mark at that point. Now I'll place my ruler and I will draw out a straight line. After I'm done marking that, I'm going to go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2 here. Now I'll place my ruler and I'm going to connect this to the end, to the upper part of my shoulder. Now after connecting, I'm going to divide my armhole into 2 and I'm going to mark the midpoint. Come out by ½ inch at this point. Now I'm going to go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 here. Now my bust is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3 inches and I'll mark. Now from that my bust circumference, I'm going to connect all the way to the armhole, that midpoint at the armhole, and to the upper part of the shoulder of my dress. Now after I'm done connecting, after I'm done marking, the next step I'm going to take is to mark my darts. Now I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 and I will start marking from my under bust to my waist to my blouse length, and I'll also go ahead to mark this at the bust of my pattern. But before marking that, I'll go ahead to mark from my under bust to my waist and to my blouse length, and I will now go ahead to extend it all the way to the upper part. Now after I'm done connecting my pattern, I'm going to mark my darts. So I'll start by dividing my shoulder by 2 and I'll connect this line first, and after that I'll start marking my dart intake. For my dart intake, I'm using a dart intake of 1 inch on both sides because my bust is not that much. Let's say you're working on a bigger bust or you're on the plus size, please go ahead and use 1.5 inches on both sides of your pattern. Now I'll just go ahead to connect this. Now after I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline. After I'm done outlining, I'm going to go ahead to place my curved rule, connect from the bust to the under bust, and also repeat this at the other side. Now this is what I have on my pattern, and the next step I'll take is to come up by 2 inches. Now you can decide this from measuring from your shoulder to where you want, or you can just measure from your chest line. Now I'll be taking my dart intake of 1 inch on both sides. If you're plus size, please go ahead to use 1.5 inches, or you can mark 1 inch here and then mark 2 inches on this side. Except you're too busty, you're going to mark 1 inch at the center, then at the side you mark 2.5. Now after I'm done marking this, right, I'll now go ahead to insert my measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 here, and after that I'll be picking this that I have here, because for this dress you don't need so much allowance, you just have to add it up. Now after replacing that measurement, add ½ inch to your sewing allowance. Mark your under bust circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake, replace and add ½ inch. Now going over to the waist, I want to take out 2 inches from my waist. My waist is 28 minus 2, I have 26. I will divide that 26 by 4 and I will mark. Measure the 2 inches here, and I will replace. After replacing it, I'll go ahead to add ½ inch to my pattern. Now here, you're going to mark your hip circumference divided by 4. Measure this dart intake, replace and add ½ inch for your sewing allowance. Now for this dress, you're going to cut it as an inbuilt Victorian corset. And then go ahead to place your skirt to draft out the basque waistline. If not, if you don't want to make it an inbuilt corset pattern, you can just cut it out like a basque starting from the waistline of your pattern. After this, I'll go ahead to outline my pattern, and after I'm done outlining, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to start altering my pattern. I'll start by marking 2 inches from here. Now I'll go ahead to connect this all the way going down to the waistline, to the blouse length. Now you can decide to make it in form of a basque if you don't know how to sew an inbuilt blouse, and then go ahead to place your skirt to create the basque. Now I'll mark my bust dart. Now how do you get this? Is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15 and a half. Minus 15 and a half from 17, you're going to have 1.5. That is how I got my own bust dart. Go ahead to take your own measurement to find your own bust dart. Now for the neckline of this dress, what I'll do is to come down by my chest line. If you want it to be deeper, please go down more. Now I'll just go ahead and trace out from the upper part of at the over bust, connect it to my chest line, and then connect this part this way. Now you're going to add like a sleeve to it, starting from the front part of your armhole to the back part of your armhole. Now you're going to drape layers of your mesh on the sleeve also to get the draped effect that you also have on the blouse. Now I'm coming in by 0.3. So why am I doing this? This is because we are going to add a busk in front of this dress. You want the center of your pattern to relax or to sit very well at the front part. Now when you're cutting this pattern and you're transferring it back to your pattern, you're going to add ½ inch for turn up allowance. Now when you're turning the main fabric with the lining, you're going to attach your busk in front of this dress. Now also remember that this is a Victorian corset pattern which has like multiple darts. Now we have already snatched out our waistline, so what I did was just to add a style line. Now if you use this method, you don't want to go ahead to start adding multiple darts to snatch your waistline, because we have directly snatched out our waistline already. So I'll go ahead and I will cut this out, and while cutting, I'll blend out your dart. So after cutting this out, now we're also going to draft out the back pattern. Now when you're making this dress, you're going to drape layers of mesh on it. That is after joining your main pattern, before going ahead to like turn it with the lining, you're going to drape mesh on it, your mesh on it, to give it that draped mesh effect on the dress. And you're also going to drape your sleeve and then turn it with the lining. Now this is the back pattern, and I've already gone ahead to mark out my basic measurements for the back. Now the only difference between the back and the front is that my shoulder to waist at the back is shorter than that of the front, because I took my measurements at the back. My shoulder to waist at the back is 15 and a half, which I added extra 5 inches for my blouse length. Now my shoulder to waist in front is 17. So after that, I'll go ahead to mark my darts. And to mark my dart, I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Now I'm going to connect this all the way from the bust to the waist and to the blouse length. Now after I'm done marking this, I'm going to go ahead to mark my darts. Now for my darts, I'll be using ½ inch on both sides of my pattern. Now I'm going to go ahead to connect from here all the way up, and I'll extend it to the other side. Repeat the same process here, and I will also connect it down. Now I'll start inserting my measurements after outlining the darts of my dress. Now for my measurements at the bust, I'll mark the bust circumference divided by 4 and add ½ inch for joining. Here I'll mark the waist circumference, my new waistline which I snatched, measure the dart intake, replace and add ½ inch. Here I'll just mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and add ½ inch. Now I'll place my ruler and I will go ahead to connect this all the way down. Now after connecting this, I'll just go ahead to use my marker to outline. Now at the lower part, at the upper part, I'll come up by 2 inches because that is what I used for the front. I'll now place my curved rule and I'll connect, creating something that looks like an armhole. Now from this point, I'll come down by ½ inch because you don't want your lacing to be popping up at the upper part, and I will connect. Now after connecting, I'll use my marker to outline to make it more visible. Now after connecting, I just feel like the upper parts will be too high, and might be popping up like when you're putting on the dress. So I'll just go ahead and take it down a bit. Now after doing that, I will just go ahead to mark my lacing. Now I'll be using 2 inches on both sides, and after marking that, I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line all the way down. Now after I'm done marking that, I will now come up by 2 inches by the side and I will connect. Now after I'm done connecting at this side, I'll extend it to the center back. Now I'll outline this and now go ahead to make an indication that I have a lacing here, and after that I'll go ahead to add like a style line, because in a Victorian corset you have multiple style line. Now after this, I'll go ahead to cut out, and also when you join your pattern, you're going to drape on it, like layers of mesh on it, to create that draped effect on the dress. Now after this, I'll just go ahead to cut out this pattern. If you have any question, please kindly leave it at the comment section, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please go ahead and also hit on the subscribe button. Thank you.